What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripes show. I literally almost said I was going to say baseball season because I don't know. There's a lot of things going on in my head. It's only 8:34 in the morning, and I feel like I've put in an 8-hour workday already. Scott, how you doing?
Good, man. Doing well. It's it's good to see all the guys, everybody together at camp. It's a lot of kumbaya, man. Best shape of their life, the whole deal. It's like
But
everything's happening.
That might be real because we're going to talk about the new and improved Giancarlo Stanton.
Best shape of your life to at this point of your life. That's the thing. Like, these guys all come in at 23, 24, 25, and they're just,
Okay.
they're ready to go. But yeah, the like after 30 Giancarlo Stanton, this is the best shape of his life.
Well, let's clarify.
He looks like Slender Man.
Best baseball shape. Maybe not best shape, like you're going for cover of GQ or something like that. No. 2 years ago, Giancarlo Stanton chiseled from stone. Okay, maybe that's better for a muscle magazine. But as far as being a baseball player, which he talked about, like, this is actually legitimately a transformation. I saw that picture. There's the shot has been going around social media of Judge and Stanton in the outfield. And Judge
looks like he put on 50 pounds of muscle.
I was like,
he looks like the goddamn Hulk.
Either Judge has been doing nothing but drinking protein shakes and lifting weights for the past 3 months, or Giancarlo Stanton legitimately shed like 20 pounds, because that's what it looks like. And maybe a little bit of both has happened. But Stanton actually looks like a human and not a cyborg, finally. Like, Judge wears his muscle much more naturally than Stanton ever did. Like, Stanton was like bodybuilder type of muscle.
He was stiff. He was
stiff cut. Like, it just didn't look natural. And part of that was maybe his batting stance and how he just like hacks at the ball and everything. But as far as being a baseball player, his quote when he was asked why he made the physical change, Stanton said, "Be a baseball player again. I just need to be more mobile. A lot of setbacks last season kept me from not moving the way I'd like to be." Yeah, like, you don't need to be able to deadlift 500 pounds to be a good baseball player. You need to be mobile. You need to be flexible. You need to be able to sustain a 6-month season, 162 game season. You're still going to have your power. You're still going to be hitting laser beam line drives all over the ballpark. I'm sure he'll still lead the league in all the StatCast categories, blah, blah, blah. But if this can help him be more of a baseball player, I'm on board.
If he's got the flexibility, again, like, I'm glad he came in the way he came in. The jury's out on if muscles are one thing, but age, when it takes your body, it starts hitting the joints. It starts hitting your ligaments. It starts hitting like all those other things where when you shed weight, yes, that's a big help. But with his swing, the way he's so upper body heavy in the way that his mechanics are, I'm very curious to see how it helps him, because he needs to get that flexibility through his lower body. He needs to make sure that everything can clear the zone in a way that is positive for his swing. And this is the right body mass, I think, for him. But I need to see how Father Time has taken control of what's underneath. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's the real thing. Like, this is all great. These are beach.
Yes.
He's going to look great with his shirt off. He's going to look great on the beach. He's going to look great with all those things. But when you swing a bat 500 times, what is your body doing? Because that's, to me, that's where the jury is out for me. So this is all great. I just need him I need to see how his mechanics are, and not just to start the season, but in July, are his mechanics at a place where they're sustainable? With this new body. So it'll be interesting, but he's right. He did the things that he needed to do, I think, as far as getting in the correct shape.
I just Googled Giancarlo Stanton 2014 Google images just for shits and giggles. And he looks, 2014 at least, he looked more like he did last year or 2 years ago. Like what the Giancarlo Stanton has been for the past 5-6 seasons. Like the what's this muscle called? The
That's your shoulder.
No, it's not your shoulder. It's the muscle like between your shoulder and your neck.
The
deltoid.
Lat?
Is that your deltoid?
It's a lat pull down.
No, the lat is your back muscle. Whatever, Ilya, some quick Google searching on what that muscle between deltoid. I don't know if that might be your deltoid. Anyway, literally bulging out of his baseball uniform, and maybe that's not going to be the case anymore. Trap
here.
Yeah.
What's your traps back here?
No, it's the trapezoid. No, trapezus. Trapezis. God, we're stupid. Um, but I like you said, he did the things that he needed to do this offseason. Are they going to work? Obviously, only time will tell. He's not getting younger. Like, to your point, of course, age is still going to be as big a factor as any if he stays healthy.
That's the biggest factor for him, just because he's just
the
different.
muscular,
he's different, man.
His
the
muscular
way that he swings
physique
the bat
was not doing him any favors as his age was getting older, as far as being a baseball player. So if this can help 10%, 20%, awesome.
Yeah, and I think the beginning of the season, as he's getting in baseball shape with this newfound carved out body, like his legs, man, that was the one thing that I noticed the most. His leg, he looks like didn't do
we don't know.
Didn't do one day of legs.
Skipped
offseason.
leg days but we don't know what his legs normally look like because he always had long pants on. So he could have always had skinny calves.
I guess he's got like sprinter calves.
He does it. He looks like you know what he does? It looks like he did a lot of running this offseason, a lot of long distance running this offseason.
Sprinting. No, it looks like sprinting because the long form, you get that high calf muscle when you have that, like when you get twitchy and you can run fast straight lines. It looks like he did a lot of like explosive cardio. So it's like, just
good.
Getting, yeah, that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing for his body. He needs,
you know what that's good for? Running first to third, going and shagging a fly ball in the outfield, because Boone talking about still playing maybe a day or two in the outfield per week for Stanton. And
yeah,
if that's going to be the thing that he was, when we talked to Andy Martino a couple of weeks ago, who, by the way, he said Stanton is his comeback player of the year this year. And I mocked Andy when he said that, because I was like, why? Like, what are you seeing? And maybe he knew he was in best baseball shape of his life.
It's also not that. It's also just like a pretty easy play, because it looks great if you're that guy. Like, you picked the guy with the most talent that had the worst season.
Yes, true. but yeah, but like I wouldn't have picked that. Like, who do you think has a better chance at comeback player of the year, Carlos Rodon or Giancarlo Stanton this year?
Yeah, they're both. I don't know Carlos Rodon at this point. You know what I mean? Like, so what does bounce back mean? I've seen what Stanton can do.
Well, we've never seen what Rodon can do. Rodon, we got a comment.
I saw
we were saying, what is it, Rodon?
But I've heard
I've heard it both
multiple
ways.
things with consistency. So
Carlos R.
I thought it was Rodon.
Rodon. We've seen what he could do with the Giants, so we know the pitcher he can be. We haven't seen it with the Yankees yet.
Yeah, cool. That's a huge ballpark. Let's just see what he can do here. I just need to see what he can do before. I'm not even giving him comeback player, because there's no, that would be like almost saying like last year, like, oh, it's okay, you made a comeback from last year. Like, no. Like that's kind of like a bullshit thing.
Oh, in
my opinion, on year number one, like, you don't deserve to be in a conversation for comeback player of the year. Like, that's bullshit. You just had a really shitty season. You need a rebound.
Well, he was injured for most of it.
Fine. But because he was being Tommy Tough guy coming out of the gate, not understanding his body.
Do you think comeback player is only back from injury, not back from poor performance?
Yeah. Poor performance from comeback player of the year. I think there's a little bit of both, but you can't just have one bad year in the new laundry after signing a massive contract and then get deemed as a comeback player of the year. That's kind of a bullshit award for a guy like him, in my opinion.
Well, let's be clear. It's a bullshit award for anybody.
It's an award for triumph, for like, doing like battling back. This is just him.
Sure. I guess a lot of times they give it to guys
sucking.
Like battling back from severe illness or something like that. Like, oh, he had to go through chemo. He had cancer.
I mean, that's pretty drastic, but yeah.
Okay, but whatever. He overcame cancer, or he overcame maybe Tommy John surgery or something like that, like something catastrophic injury wise or illness wise. Then they come back.
Yeah.
Rodon, like you said, back injuries, various problems throughout the season, and then he got on the field and stunk.
Ticky tack. That's more of like, you were in bad shape. So you don't get put in this category.
Rodon also category for best shape of his life. Although I think it's just no mustache. Mustache took off 20 pounds apparently. His body, his physique doesn't look that different to me. The one picture that I saw going around is him signing a baseball at a fence for fans, and his left arm looks like Roger Federer's right arm. Okay, it is massive. It's like the giant Hulk hand arm. We can't really see his right arm, but his left arm, all I know, huge.
Yeah, well, and that makes a lot of sense considering what he does for a living. But again, he shed some baby weight. You know, these guys are all sweating in Florida even before spring training. A lot of them are training in Florida and getting in that good shape, getting rid of all that water weight that they had from the beginning of the offseason. So, look, man, he just needs to do it. Comeback player of the year or not, whether he's eligible for that award or not, he just needs to do it.
He said he is moving through his delivery much better. I'm moving better, moving the way I usually move. I think last year I was moving a little wonky down the mound. I was trying to find it the whole year and just couldn't find it. This year I made that a main concern in the offseason to figure out my move and what I was moving down the mound. He said the word move and moving quite a bit in that 3-line quote. But his fastball so far this spring has been sitting in the 88 to 91 mile per hour range for his bullpen sessions. This time last year, it was in the 85 to 88 mile an hour range. And in a live batting practice session, he was actually throwing much harder, topped out at 97 miles an hour.
Again, let's relax. Let's relax on showing everybody that you can throw hard. This is exactly what happened last year. He peaked out at a couple times, and we're like, oh, I remember talking about this very, very clearly.
But do you remember last year? Hard. But last year he had like the whole time leading up to his first start, his velocity was not where it needed to be. Then he gets out there on the mound in inning 1 of game 1. He's like, all right, now I need to prove my contract here in inning 1 of spring training grapefruit league and try and throw it 95, 98 miles an hour.
Yeah, well, now he's doing it in batting practice. He's just bumping the schedule up.
Maybe he's feeling good. Maybe this is just him feeling good, feeling loose, and it's just coming out naturally.
I hope so. It's a big variance from top mile per hour and average mile per hour when you're looking at the.
But average in a bullpen session, like I don't think bullpen sessions you're ever going 100%.
No, I don't want any of them going this early. It's February 20th. Like, let's just chill out.
Yeah,
that's all. I just want him to know his body and to not try too hard. I don't think that's a big ask. I really don't. I don't think it's a big ask. He got rid of the mustache. That's step 1.
No, it somehow crawled its way to Gleyber Torres' upper lip.
That's fine. Gleyber can have the mustache. He's been on the Yankees long enough where he's able to just grow a mustache. He had a very good year last year, and he's a dad, so the mustache makes a lot more sense for him in this position. I have no problem with Gleyber Torres' mustache. It's not even a broom either. It's just a regular mustache.
Yeah, that almost makes it worse. So the mustache thing with the Yankees is weird because obviously they have the facial hair policy. So no one can grow a beard, but for whatever reason, you can still grow a mustache. You can grow sideburns too, because this stupid rule by Steinbrenner was made in the 70s when mustaches and sideburns were a thing. And now here we are in the year 2024 and it hasn't frickin' changed.
It's like the Thurman Munson rule. That's almost what it is.
Yes, I did a history episode about this way back during COVID. Go back and search that, facial hair policy. That was one of my favorite ones I did because I didn't know anything about this. Like basically it was Steinbrenner was just like, these guys look like a-holes. We got to clean this stuff up. But like it's now 2024 and that policy has not changed. That's a whole other topic for another day. I feel like with the mustache, I don't mind the mustache if you're going to do it as like a team thing. Do you remember a couple of years ago when the Yankees...
Someone's got to start that though. Someone's got to start that. Yeah.
But it's in season. Like, oh, we're on an 11-game win streak. Oh, and Giambi started growing a jet black mustache. So now we're all going to grow a mustache. Or I think it was
Brendan Ryan, I think
2015, guys. Brendan Ryan. And then like the last guy to grow a mustache was Jacoby Ellsbury because clearly he just couldn't grow a mustache. It took him like 3 weeks to get like a little pencil thin mustache. He looked like an a-hole. But like that kind of stuff was fun when you do it as like we all know we look dumb, but we're doing this as a team. Now, I guess that flies in the face because Nestor Cortez has always had a mustache with the Yankees.
And looks great.
But like, I think Nestor Cortez...
Austin Wells has a strong mustache.
I think Nestor Cortez was born with a mustache. That's just how he's supposed to look.
You're just not used to seeing Gleyber with a mustache, and that's what's messing with you. Yeah. You don't like change.
I don't mind change.
You don't mind change in this regard. You don't mind change in the aesthetic of what someone looks like.
I think
unless they get skinny when they're too big.
Yeah, I think Gleyber Torres can grow a mustache as part of the team bonding exercise. Not I'm just showing up to my final year with the Yankees potentially with a mustache. Like he hasn't done enough to just
that's bullshit. He's done plenty for the mustache. The mustache is good. If he feels good I just want him to feel good. If he thinks he looks good, then great. Feel good, look good, play good. That's it. That's all I need.
So we got three mustachios right now, right? We got Glaber, Nestor, and Wells. Those are the mustache boys.
Yeah. Stanton's had a mustache in the past too. Stanton's had like a little thing going on here. Wouldn't surprise me.
Stanton shaves every third day, and that's what happens.
And skinny Stanton, I think, could do the mustache. It like makes more sense to me.
I love skinny Stanton.
I know, I can tell. I can tell you're very excited for it.
I'm very excited for skinny Stanton. Like, it's all, again, when he pulls up lame with a quad on March 19th, whatever, fine, doesn't matter, skinny or muscular. But right now, I'm loving it.
It's good. Let's see it in action. Let's see those hips clear the zone much quickly and make good contact. That's what I want to see from this guy. Making contact.
How many times did we joke and scream, but not really joking, about how this guy just needs to be more flexible? Like, instead of bench pressing Instagram models, how about you do some yogas, do some hot yoga, get those quads and those hamstrings nice and loose for the baseball season. And like, maybe this offseason he actually.
You're getting a little too excited. Let's relax on the excitement. I need to see him run first to second base, and if he can do that without slowing down or going at 3 miles per hour and saying that that's the top speed that we're going to get no matter what, fine. If he can tag up with a long fly ball on the warning track from third base and score, which everybody in the major league should be able to do, then
except Masahiro Tanaka.
I will get to a place where I'm excited for his mobility, but I got to see it. I got to see him move. I want to see him touch his toes.
You think he can? You think he can touch his toes?
I hope so. He should be able to touch his toes. That's a big deal.
Can you touch your toes?
Yeah, I can. I didn't for a long, maybe not today, but within the last 6 to 8 months, I've been able to touch my toes.
Within the last 10 years, you've touched your toes.
But he, that hip flexibility, that hip mobility to me is a big thing. And that like weight can help, that can take strain off of it, but he's still got to have the mobility in there. So let's see where he is.
He, getting back to the Stanton thing, he also said that the comments that Cashman made this offseason about how injuries are a part of Stanton's game are behind him.
So when I read that comment, I was like, wait, does he say that the injuries that are part of his game are behind him?
No.
Or the comments of the injury?
He's put the comments behind him. Yeah. He's not going to, okay,
because I read that.
Let's not jump the gun a little bit too much and say injuries are behind him.
I read that quickly and I was like, oh, Stanton getting cocky with his skinny ass, saying that injuries are now behind him. Like the habitual injury bug that's biting him now behind him. But no, it's just the comments.
Like he probably needed to buy all new t-shirts.
You're really stuck on this
because
he's buying the cotton poly blend because it's a little bit more form fitting. So it's tight around the arm.
He was probably pre weight cut. Was probably in like an XL, right? Probably.
Maybe he's just wearing the same shirts, but now they actually fit him.
No, but he was in skin tight XLs where like the biceps were basically ripping the seams apart. And like, you know how the shirts where like your chest is just too big, so it's just stretched.
Yeah.
Now maybe he's in XLs and they're just fitting nice like a glove.
Same shirt, just fits him right now. A little bit more, looser fit.
Quick tangent. My buddy Chris, who I know sometimes listens to this podcast, in college, like one summer, just like lost a ton of weight, like came in skinny Chris, we called him. And he bought what he called baby tees. So he bought like a bunch of like Abercrombie mediums, and they were just like, because he's a big guy, he's probably 6'1", but like barely fit him, but like he looked okay because he was like that skinny. He immediately ballooned up again. Like first semester back, he couldn't wear any of his t-shirts. So he had to get all new t-shirts.
It's called beer.
It's called beer and dining hall food.
Yeah. College will get you.
5 trips a day to the all-you-can-eat dining hall. All right. Juan Soto arrived at Yankees camp, said that the team has everything we need, alluding to winning a championship. And he also said that Robinson Cano has been a present-day mentor to him and somebody that he looked up to as a kid. Kind of insane that Juan Soto looked up to Robinson Cano as a kid, considering Robinson Cano played very, very recently. But then you remember Juan Soto is 24 years old.
Yeah, it's crazy when you think about how young he is because the body of work is
how accomplished he is for this point in his 20s.
He should be 28, like season 28. Like it feels like he's in season, like in his prime, season 28, but he's actually just getting started.
He hasn't entered his baseball prime yet.
It's wild. It really is wild. And look, if you're looking at a baseball player to be a guy who's a good role model, and as far as on the offensive side of things and defensive side of things, Robbie Cano's a good one.
Robinson Cano, the baseball player, very good.
Player. When he was playing baseball at a high level, he was the best, if not top 2, top 3 second baseman in the league.
No, he was the best second baseman in the league for a number of years.
Chase Utley was like they
no, Chase Utley was
pre.
So Cano's prime, if we want to call his prime, was probably like 2010 to call it 2014, whatever.
When was Utley? Utley was crossed over.
07 to 10. Well, Utley was, the late 2000s, and Cano was early 2010s when he was at his prime. Like the last 4 years of Robinson Cano as a Yankee were probably his best years.
Yeah,
where he's a
320
hitter, hit 25 plus home runs.
So pure.
He was smooth as hell at second base. Honestly, one of the reasons Derek Jeter lasted so long at shortstop is because Robinson Cano covered a lot of the middle of the field.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of times he would cross over second base and make that little flip across his body was crazy. Yeah, no, he was. So as far as role models, I don't mind that one bit. I think Robbie Cano, was a damn good baseball player. So that's a good one. You can't mix in the steroid thing, because that's just part of.
Let's
just stop there. Him as a baseball player, as a Yankee, perfect.
I was devastated when Cano left the Yankees. I was mad the Yankees didn't pony up for him. Like, obviously in hindsight, that's fine, but because at that point it was just like, wait, the Yankees didn't sign?
That just hadn't happened before. Like, it just hadn't happened in our lifetime.
Yeah,
losing that guy at that time of his career,
who was a Yankee, a homegrown Yankee. Like, they missed out on free agents, like famously Cliff Lee twice. They couldn't get. But like, when it was your homegrown guy and he was hitting free agency, there was not a doubt in my mind he was coming back. And then he wasn't there, and we're going into spring training with Jacoby Ellsbury and Brian McCann and Carlos Beltran. I'm like, what happened?
Yeah. No, it's that was a weird time. That was a weird time. Andy Pettitte leaving was the other weird time.
That's right. Yeah, Pettitte. Yeah, I guess Pettitte. It was Pettitte and then Cano. Like, those are the two big.
Pettitte
ones.
leaving for Houston was like, what is happening here? That was just a strange time.
But you know what happened then?
He went home. Like, there was a lot of things where
Clemens signed in Houston. Pettitte. Well, I think Pettitte signed in Houston before Clemens.
The writing was on the wall. There was a lot of talk about that. We all knew that was going to happen almost.
But I think a lot of people confuse that Clemens signed in Houston and then Pettitte was like, I'm following Clemens, when it was, in fact, I'm sure he knew Pettitte knew Clemens wanted, but like, technically Pettitte signed first and then Clemens came back. But what happened that offseason was the Yankees got A-Rod, so everyone was like, oh, A-Rod, like, shiny new object, the best player in baseball, Alex Rodriguez, like, who cares what else happened?
Yeah, well, I cared. I didn't like losing Andy Pettitte. He was my guy for a while.
Yankees effed that one up. Yeah, that was like, Cashman and the Yankees front office needs to be hand up on that one, because Pettitte wanted to come back to the Yankees and he ended up signing for $1 million less in Houston because the Yankees dicked around with his offer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, you know what doesn't happen probably in 2004 if Andy
100%.
Pettitte's starting one of those final 3 games.
Yeah, the stopper, like the stopper. He was the guy that put an end to any. It was a kibosh.
Instead of John Lieber starting Game 6, you got Andy Pettitte on the mound in Game 6, or instead of Kevin Brown starting Game 7, you got Andy Pettitte starting Game 7.
Maybe the Red Sox don't win a championship ever.
So Blake Snell, what the hell's going on with him? Rumors popped back up about the Yankees' offer to Snell, although from everything we can tell, this is not a new offer. This is the original offer they made a few weeks ago, still on the table, apparently. But like, we don't even for sure know what that offer is. It was reported at the time 5 to 6 years, about 25 to 30 million AAV, in that range. Cashman said on Thursday, so this was last week, I don't have blocked on my call sheet for any agents. If they want to call, they certainly have the avenue to do so. I'm always open-minded to listen to what's available, as well as continue our dialogues with opposing general managers. But we do like what we have here. But it's a long season. We're certainly not going to assume that what we have now is going to be enough. That's why the job is always to be open. Who just talks in a sentence like, if they want to call, they certainly have the avenue to do so?
It's just Cashman speak around.
Cashman
that
speak.
He's having conversations that it's, you know, that there's nothing against Boris. Because a lot of this is just like alluding underneath it, the fact that it's Boris, and Boris is different to everybody looking at what's happening.
No general manager mentions the name Scott Boris.
But
because we're going to get to an article that Ken Rosenthal wrote in the Athletic.
But there's
multiple
an underlying
GMs quoted. Not one of them says the word Boris.
There's an underlying sentiment about Scott Boras and Scott Boras clients, and they know what the deal is. So the whole Snell thing is really interesting at this point. And yes, there's so many different reports. Like, it's very unclear of what's happening. So for us to speculate what exactly is happening is just a little unreasonable. But what it looks like is that either the original contract, they're just working through it. I have a feeling that's what's kind of happening. Like, hey, this was line in the sand. Maybe there's an actual like official offer that's been put out. I don't know. But either way, it seems like there is a negotiation happening, and how many other teams are involved, who knows? Because we all know Scott Boras loves the surprise
mystery team. Oh, there will be, whoever is about to sign Blake Snell, mystery team will pop up at the last minute who just offered 1 year more, surprisingly.
Yeah. So, you know, this is all part of the game. And I know there's precedent. There's even more precedent for guys signing late than what we've kind of addressed, because we called out some of them, but there's actually a pretty decent precedent for guys signing later into the spring. And really after guys report.
Ilya, did John Heyman report anything on the Blake Snell stuff? Because John Heyman is like a Scott Boras mouthpiece. And so if John Heyman is reporting anything on a Boras client, you can usually basically say this is what Scott Boras is saying, is like, that's how he gets stuff out, is through John Heyman. So I'll be curious about that.
If I'm Scott Boras, I'm mixing my guys up a little bit too. After Heyman, has come out with some things that are just not, pretty inaccurate. I would mix my guys up if I were him.
Cashman also said, we're not pencils down by any means. If there's ways to improve the club, we can be open-minded to that. And he said, it's obviously pitching. It's always pitching. So
the biggest tell is the shit-eating grin on Aaron Judge's face when they're talking about, and he's like, yeah, I think there is another move coming. And then he's got that
smirk. It's just like,
he's got that shit-eating little like half, because clearly he's privy to a lot more conversations today than he was in previous years. And if he's privy, or he's, the mouthpiece and going out on recruiting, phone calls and texts and things like that, which I promise you he is. He knows information. He just doesn't have the poker face that some people do, which I think is hilarious. But
because
if you're reading into his body language,
he has the poker words. He doesn't say anything, but his face speaks 1,000 words. His face
is tough to hide. It absolutely is. And that shit-eating grin leads me to believe that there are deep conversations happening. And here's the rub. It doesn't have to be Blake Snell. Maybe it's a trade. Could be a trade.
Right.
Could be someone else. Could be, it could be them talking to Cleveland.
And it's not for a depth piece. You don't have that shit-eating grin for a depth piece.
No, you do not. You have it for, and everybody's saying this, in a like that there might be something else. Like everybody's confident in saying that there might be something else. To me, is like there's something else. There's something else here. So Clark Schmidt, get your tools ready for the bullpen, because that's probably going to happen. Which look, hey, if they do this is exactly what I said. This is exactly what I wanted them to do. This is exactly, there's honestly, as a fan, if they go out and do this and Clark Schmidt becomes a guy that you have flexibility with, bullpen,
actual
starter,
depth, not guys who you
have major league depth now in the starting rotation. And the Yankees are putting themselves in a position to not only win with top level talent, health wise, all that we're seeing what they is, but they've also created contingency plans that are not 4A guys, not 4A guys and hinge guys. This is the year you have to do this. I know we say windows and all those things with bigger contracts, but there are too many expiring contracts this year. and I know the word expiring contracts isn't really used with baseball all that often, but it is what it is. You gotta go for it this year with the amount of guys that you have on 1-year deals. You do.
I think the depth thing gets misconstrued, where it's like, oh, the Yankees have so much depth. Look at their minor league system of pitchers they could call up. And it's like, that's great for when you've got a doubleheader and you need to call someone up as the spot starter. Or that's great if someone needs to fill in because you've got, no off days on a road trip or something like that. That's not great depth when a pitcher goes down with an injury in May, right? Like, that's not what we're talking about. Like, maybe one of those pitchers could turn into something, but to bank on that as your depth is too risky.
Totally agree. And this is just not the year to fuck around and find out. This is just not the year. It's not the year to do that.
And so the Athletic article that I was pulling from those Cashman quotes also went on to talk about the Yankees' estimated payroll right now is $307 million, which is above the $297 million top tax threshold, which means that every dollar spent above $297 is taxed at 110%. And it used the example of Snell. Say Snell signed a 1-year, $40 million contract, because there's also been some talk that maybe Snell would take a 1-year deal. The Yankees would pay $44 million in luxury tax penalty on that $40 million, meaning that 1-year deal is an $84 million cost for the Yankees. Snell gets 40. The Yankees are paying $84 million in order to have Blake Snell pitched for them for 1 year in that scenario. That seems extremely unrealistic to happen, a short-term deal. There's still probably, like we were talking about before the pod, can you structure a 5, a 6, or maybe even a 7-year deal? Maybe there's some deferred money like we saw the Dodgers do, but you just got to spread out that money over time so that that penalty in this year, you're still going to be paying a lot, but it's less. And then next year, with all the money coming off the books, you could still have room to re-sign Juan Soto and stay within. Like, you're not going to be able to re-sign everybody, obviously, but you're going to be able to sign your most important pieces next offseason.
Yeah, well, I think you look at, so yes, the 1-year deal in this scenario, because of the luxury tax, does make it seem very unlikely for something like that. That said, like, a guy coming off a Cy Young shouldn't be in a position to sign a 1-year deal either. That's kind of bonkers.
Why are they talking about it, though? Why are they talking about the pillow contracts, which, if that's the term that now is getting thrown around, pillow contracts?
Is that a Boris?
I saw it in the Rosenthal article. So maybe the pillow contract is Boris's new trademark.
Yeah. Well, the it just doesn't make a lot of sense in this regard because of that. And maybe it's, if he is going after that, it's not with the Yankees because of that penalty. So there's multiple things. But it is bonkers. It is bonkers to think about a guy winning a Cy Young and then having this hard of a time signing with a team.
It's February 21st. He's still out there. The Boris 4. That was the Rosenthal article. The Boris 4, Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, Cody Bellinger, Matt Chapman, all still unsigned. There was 2 general managers, actually 3 general managers, Rangers, Blue Jays, and Giants. I don't think he was the GM. I think it was like president of baseball ops, all quoted by name in this article saying, yeah, a lot of big guys still out there. It would be surprising if you saw any of them sign this late in the spring. Any additions like that would have to come with subtractions. Never mentioning any of those players by name, never mentioning Scott Boris's name, because then the Players Association could go after them for collusion. And Rosenthal didn't outright say, like, oh, this is collusion. But he kind of alluded to, like, there seems to be an underlying message here to Scott Boris clients and to Scott Boris himself.
We're not dealing with your bullshit.
Yeah, like, it is now February 21st, and 4 of the biggest free agents going into this offseason, not the biggest, obviously, but 4 of the top 8 biggest free agents, right?
Yeah.
Unsigned. Yeah. Spring training has begun. It's not unprecedented. 2018, JD Martinez and Yu Darvish signed February 19th. Jake Arrieta and Alex Cobb went unsigned until mid-March. All of them Scott Boris guys. The Players Association that year, remember, opened up that alternate spot.
Yeah.
Spring training camp. Bryce Harper, Manny Machado went unsigned until late February in the 2019 offseason. So it was around now, like late February, that those were unquestionably
the biggest guys.
The biggest guys.
Those were complex contracts as well. Like, this is a different scenario. And honestly, if I'm Blake Snell, I'm not happy with what's happening here at all. I'm not happy with the fact that I just won a Cy Young and it's February 21st and I don't have a team. That's crazy. That is crazy. Has that ever happened? No,
Yeah,
I would imagine that that's never happened. A guy coming off of a Cy Young, not in camp when camp starts. That's kind of a crazy scenario, especially going into a free agent year. But
I mean, I'm sure the thought was for Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery that Yamamoto's going to sign, and then you guys are going to sign shortly after that, because the dominoes are going to fall. And once the teams that Yamamoto didn't get Yamamoto, they're going to have to pivot to us, and we're going to be there. And it's a month. When did Yamamoto sign? Early January, right? It was like the first week or so in January, I think.
It was around the new year.
Yeah. And here we are, a week into spring training. Pitchers and catchers reported last week, and these pitchers have not had a new team yet. So they're going to have to get to the point where they're going to have to go to a spring training camp and work out. Because if you're going to be ready for an opening day as a starting pitcher, you need to have started already.
I mean, they're definitely starting. It's not like they have to go to a physical camp where their Major League Baseball is putting on. Like, in today's world,
but if it's March 10th, do that. If it's March 10th and you're not signed, you're going to have to get some. You can't just keep throwing in your backyard.
No, yeah, you're throwing. They can throw against high school kids, college kids. They can start going to those different places so they can get some live BP. I don't think it really matters where they're doing it as much. But honestly, I think in the next, I would be very surprised by March 1st if these guys, if Montgomery and Snell, and probably Chapman too, third base, like, wouldn't be surprised if they were signed. I would be surprised. And Bellinger, I'm sorry, because Bellinger with the Cubs feels like it's just waiting to happen. Semantics essentially. And I know the Giants are also in a conversation with him as well, but everything is pointing to the Cubs and them just getting to a place where, he's okay with it. So I really would be very surprised if these guys are not signed in the next 9 days, or 8 days, I guess, because there's a short month of February. But by March 1st, I expect them to be there. Yeah.
So getting back to that John Heyman thing, he wrote an article a couple days ago. Yankees still can't be taken seriously as World Series contender, and then the article talked about how they still need to be in on Montgomery or Snell. So also that Rosenthal article talked about how the fact that all of these players declined the qualifying offer meant there's draft pick penalties associated with all these free agents, and that is also a factor in teams not going after them. And to that I say, this system is broken. This is not working. This is not working as it's intended to. If you're going to keep that draft pick penalty to basically reward the teams that are losing the free agent, fine. But you have to give the teams signing the players some sort of window to sign them where the penalties are not as harsh. Like we talked about a couple weeks ago, you have a 4-week period, mid-December to mid-January, where if you sign in this window, instead of giving up 2 draft picks for these players, you only have to give up 1 draft pick for these players. You have to incentivize both the player, the team losing the player, and the team signing the player, or else here, because baseball doesn't want 4 of its best players unsigned in spring training. That's not a good look.
Yeah, so you're basically trying to eliminate the automatic qualifying offer that's given to these guys, knowing that they're going to turn it down for the draft pick compensation. Because that's really, at the end of the day, like,
well, that's not eliminating. If you eliminate that, then you're taking out draft pick compensation. You're just taking out draft pick compensation altogether.
No, I mean not making it an automatic. Not making it an automatic thing, because I feel like now teams understand that they're putting this out there and it's not really risky.
Exactly.
It's not risky at all. So there needs to be a little bit
because worst case scenario. What is worst case scenario? You get the player back for 1 year. It's like, that's not that bad.
No, I know, but it doesn't happen. It does, like, there's our very rare occasions where it does happen. And so that's where it has to start almost. You have to start right there with that part of the process, because that is like, everybody's going to throw out the qualifying offer knowing that it's going to get turned down so that they get it in return.
Yep.
So I don't know. Maybe the qualifying offer has to be higher make
It's
make
already
it higher.
an average of like the top. Isn't like an average of the top 3 or top 5? Like it's not cheap. Like the qualifying offer, you're paying $20+ million.
Yeah, but the guys that are turning it down are understandably know that what they can get on free agent.
There's actually no draft pick for Montgomery. I just remembered because he
got traded.
But the other 3 have draft pick compensation.
Yeah. So
I just think that I think it's a bad look for Major League Baseball that free agency is so slow. And like we had the frenzy around the Dodgers signing Ohtani and Yamamoto, but other than that, free agency has been extremely slow and there's no buzz to it. Like the other sports, NBA free agency, NFL free agency, it's like a frenzy. It starts and then 48 hours, everyone's gone and off the table, and there's 7,000 reports going around, and it's exciting. Like I would like
it's exciting for 48 hours, but it does lose the longevity of the story.
You want to be talking about like it's February 21st. We're still talking about 4 of the best free agents available. Like, come on.
I know, I don't need it to be as tight as you're talking about, because I think the NBA, like everybody already knows where they're going.
4-week period. Give a 4-week signing window for baseball.
It goes back to the proposal that we had about, incentivizing that the cutoff, having a cutoff essentially for it. And I think that's in the beginning of January, having or the middle of January, I forget when we had said it, but something along those lines. After the new year, you have a deadline, and then there's imposed penalties or what, however it goes.
How about this?
There's a system that can be made to make it shorter. I don't think it needs to be as short as other like basketball, because it is more complex. Well, there is a luxury tax, and there's a larger roster. There's implications.
Basketball and football doesn't have a short signing window. Everything just happens short. Everything happens quickly.
Because there's a short amount of especially for basketball, because there's a limited amount of roster spots, and it's so top heavy with talent.
Yeah. How about this? The final day to sign a free agent in baseball, the signing period where you get some benefits, is also the last day you can wish someone a happy new year.
That's fine with me. I think it coincides. Yeah. January 15th.
No, it varies year to year depending on when the new year is. Come on, we've been over this. Roster news, couple roster items. Lou Trevino signed a 1-year deal with the club for 2025, $1.5 million guaranteed, with a $5.5 million club option for 2025. Judge, we already talked about, he spoke to the media, could not get the shit-eating grin off of his face when he talked about if there's another move coming. And Baltimore ended up acquiring Matt Crook from the Yankees for cash considerations. Crook was a left-handed AAA depth piece. I know he was in spring training with the Yankees last year. Baltimore's had some injuries already this year to their pitching staff. So
big injuries.
Yeah.
When you have Bradish Means,
and Gunnar Henderson is going to miss some time.
Yeah, but focusing on their pitching side, so the Corbin Burns trade to them, we were all like, "Oh shit!" Yeah. Like that's a big deal. When you see what injury concerns they have with Means and Bradish, who were two of the best, they were among the best starting pitchers in the American League down the stretch. Like you see some of these guys that are right there with them, and then you add a Burns to it. That's a huge deal. The fact that these guys are banged up, and I don't know, how long they're going to be out, but there's definitely more question marks when you see the injuries in their starting pitching. All those guys are healthy. They have a formidable, like a very, very good starting rotation at this point, with Corbin Burns leading the charge. So on a 1-year deal, right? He's on a 1-year deal. So
it's the last year of his arbitration.
Essentially a 1-year deal though. That's a big thing. So we'll see how they shape up, but it does change the outlook, I think, for what they are. And now you're really looking at, when are those guys able to come back, which, if they're fully reloaded by mid-season, then, that's, I think, totally fine for them, because they have probably the offensive talent as well to withstand some of that. And then obviously adding Burns is a big deal for leading the rotation. But yeah, the Yankees going over the top with one more pitcher, I think at this point is a necessity.
All right, we're going to check in with Max Goodman coming up. But first, finding good meat in the grocery store can be tricky and unreliable. And maybe you don't know of a good butcher in town. Do butchers even exist anymore, Scott? I feel like that's something from the 1960s.
No, they do. They do. In my last house down the street, there was this place called the Meat Market, and the Meat Market was actually two guys.
Very direct.
Two guys from the Bronx that opened up a shop
In Virginia Beach.
In Virginia Beach, and I loved going in there because I felt like I was going home a little bit every time I would go in there. The sandwiches, shredded lettuce, sandwiches packed to the brim, like.
Oh,
really
so it was
good.
like a deli meat, like butcher type thing.
But they had really, really good cuts of meat. They would do some pre-made stuff. Yeah.
Well,
So but there are not very many of them around.
You know what also has good cuts? Good Chop. Good Chop offers fully customizable boxes of high-quality meat and seafood delivered to your door on your schedule. All products are vacuum sealed and frozen at peak freshness, so you can stock up your freezer and cook when you want. You choose from over 75 high-quality cuts. We're talking 100% grass-fed ribeyes, pork tenderloin, chicken, thick-cut bacon, seafood, and more. They offer wild-caught seafood, salmon, Pacific cod, scallops, shrimp. I made the thick cut bacon the weekend that my family was in town for Harrison's birthday. Literally everybody at the table said this is the best bacon they've ever had. And it was. It just tasted better than anything you could ever find in the store. Good Chop sources its meats and seafoods exclusively from American farms and fisheries, so you are supporting local family farms and independent ranchers when you use this product. The best part is Good Chop's price per meal starts at just $3.74. That is a great price for quality meats and fish with no antibiotics or added hormones ever. Go to goodchop.com/Bronx120 and use code Bronx120 to get $120 off your first 4 boxes. It's $120 off your first 4 boxes. So
that's a lot.
That's a lot of money off. You might as well just try this. Goodchop.com/Bronx120. Code Bronx120 at goodchop.com/Bronx120. Thank you very much